Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Anfield Index Podcast, broadcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and I'm joined by Kam Brainch only tonight. We are, like Harry Redknapp always used to be, down to the bare bones. Just the two of us. We're going to have to see what we can do. We might manage a little transfer coup by the end of the show. Let's see what we can manage. But myself and Braichy will hopefully bring you something of interest over the next hour or so. Not like there's not a million things to talk about. And so I think the simplest thing to do is to get started in the way that we usually do. I have, Kam, you'll be pleased to know, a little bit of a light-hearted video, because we spoke, just to let the listeners know beforehand, about how the shape of the show might look, and you have a quote which is sort of topical and war-based, and I had a couple as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to budge mine to the end, and
Cool.
I'll do my happy clappy stuff here now. So this is my man Tommy Tiernan again. I think
Lovely.
people enjoyed him last week. I'm going to go again, and Tommy's explaining to you basically, because it's a mystery to folks, isn't it? GAA, the Gaelic games. It's a real mystery. Like why is there 100,000 Irish people crammed into Croke Park shouting and roaring and cheering and being incredibly vocal about this game, where fellas seem to be running around with sticks and other lads seem to be playing some sort of a hybrid of soccer and rugby? So Tommy's going to endeavour to explain the gentle art of GAA to an audience here, a live audience.
The GAA is an amazing thing. It's very different to the English Premiership and stuff like that. It's, first of all, it's amateur. And the game, the best game that we have is hurling. Hurling is kind of like, if you can imagine, 30 chimps trying to play golf with the one ball. There's a wild, savage madness to it. But there's beauty in it as well. I had the privilege last September at being at the All-Ireland hurling final between Galway and Waterford. And there was an amazing moment in the second half of the match. The ball is on the ground. It's the size of an apple, a kind of a leathery apple. And he has a stick in him called a hurl. And he hits the ball in such a way, he lifts it off the ground and spins through the air on a kind of an arc to score. It was incredible. I was talking to a blind man from Abbeynockmoy, the far side of Clare Galway. He was blind since day one, and he'll be blind till he dies. And he told me that sideline coach was that fucking miraculous that he's seen it. So that's the level of artistry we're talking about. The score lines in the GAA are more like train timetables. Limerick 4:19, Cork 1:22. I had the misfortune, a few days after the All-Ireland hurling final, to be watching an Irish Republic of Ireland soccer friendly against Georgia. We're always playing fucking Georgia. Every 8 months, guess who? The fucking Georgians. Okay. It was a 0-0 draw. A 0-0 draw. What's the point in that? What's the point in playing a game where the score at the end is the same as if you'd never fucking played at all? You never get two tennis players just staring at one another for an hour and a half and then go, we'll call it quits, you're too hard to beat. Okay. What the big difference, of course, is the amateur status. We're all big soccer fans in Ireland, you know. We grew up supporting English clubs. And maybe if we're lucky enough as adults, we get the money together and get to come over to Stamford Bridge, Old Trafford or Anfield and stand there and sing songs Sing songs at millionaires in shorts from Peru and Afghanistan who couldn't give a fuck about you. You go down to your local GAA pitch, they'd better give a fuck about you. Run, you fat bastard, run. Jesus, Foley, look at the size of your hole. Run, you fat fuck. I know where you live, Foley. I know where you fucking live. Well, I'm his father. Of course I know where he lives. Run, you fuck you.
There you go. Bit of Tommy. Nice palate cleanser. Apologies for you if you're offended by the language. I hope you like the spin I put in that there, Kam. How are you, my friend? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. If people are offended by the language after 316, 17, 18 shows, whatever it is, they're definitely listening to the wrong show, aren't they?
That's a fact. That is a fact. We are not noted for putting too much censorship on ourselves when it comes to that type of thing. And long may it continue. Long may it continue. So you're in situ for us there tonight. How's the week been, first of all?
Oh, it's been a very good week, thanks. Yeah, you know, travelling the length and breadth of the England and Wales, as you do. So it's been a good week. Yeah, everything's good. Yeah, I mean, life's good in Brainchy land, so can't knock it. So not enjoying these fuel prices, I must admit. That's bit of a that's a bit of an interesting one. But
did you have the same situation as we had here, which was basically our government decided they were going to be great lads and they were going to take 15 cent off this and 20 cent off that per litre, and then the price gouging bastards who run the petrol stations put the prices up by exactly that the night before.
Yeah, the government has done nothing at all. I mean, I'll give you a prime example. I mean, Shell, for example, I know, and I'm sure it's the same with other fuel stations as well, fuel companies. They have they have Shell sites and they have franchise sites. So I saw a franchise site selling diesel at £1.99 a litre, whereas the average Shell price was around 160, 165. At the Shell sites, and apparently I posted a picture of that on Twitter, and apparently I should be more concerned about the people suffering in the Ukraine than worried about a few extra pounds it's going to cost me to fill up my tank.
Yeah, dude, I have to say, right, and
so it's a little bit odd seeing as I hadn't mentioned anything about Ukraine. And
No, and I we need to get this out here right now, and it's because it's going to colour everything otherwise. There is a lunacy in how this whole horrific situation is being talked about. Mm-hmm. I've spoken about this. There are people that I know in both countries, and that would have a bearing on it, obviously, from a personal point of view. But say they weren't, I'd like to think that you just look at what's going on and you would try and understand it, and you could understand that there might be complications to it that go beyond the simplistic narrative that's been thrown out in the fucking tabloids. If the tabloids and the BBC and your LBC radio and your shock jocks are all saying the same thing, it's probably not the case. So if you want to say, hang on, the sanctions imposed by my government on Russia are actually kicking my arse right now, and an awful lot of people who travel for a living are genuinely going to be hurting here in Ireland anyway. I know that for a fact. In fact, I know one of them personally. Me. So you're some galaxy brain to then go and say, oh, you're not being supportive enough. Honestly, Jesus Christ, back off. I mean, how are the two things even linked? And how is it normal of you to suffer?
Well, look, on a personal level, I'm currently spending about £350 a week on fuel. On average, I do about 1,700 miles a week on average.
Yeah. Okay.
So before the crisis, I was spending £250 a week. So the few extra pounds a week is £100 a week out of my pocket. Simple as that, man. Simple as that. And let me just clarify as well. In 2008, and this is where the lunacy of this all is mind-boggling. In 2008, a barrel of oil was $140, and fuel prices were around the one pound a litre mark. We are currently at $100 a barrel, and fuel prices are about $180. Could somebody explain that to me when the barrel price is less and the fuel prices are 70, 80, 90% more? Somebody can explain that lunacy to me in how the war, what's going on in Ukraine has affected the barrel price to go to $100, but still the fuel prices to be so much more expensive than they were 22, 24 years ago.
I'm glad you mentioned that stat. I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that puts things into sharp perspective for people, and it gives them a little bit of an interesting take, because there's not enough of that kind of chat. But careful there with the doing your own research, Kam. You'll get labelled.
Yeah. I'm all for the research if it's factual.
Exactly.
It's got to be on point. If it's on point, that's fine. It's we could go down many rabbit holes and wormholes with this one, couldn't we? So
sure could.
It's just a bit of a mess, isn't it? So and don't get me wrong. I mentioned it. I think it was on the last show. We all of our listeners, no doubt, and everybody at AR, we have nothing but sympathy, despair, heartbreak. For the people of the Ukraine, but it also extends, as I said before, to Palestine, to Iraq, to Syria, to Afghanistan, to Yemen, all countries where people are oppressed, are victimized, are suffering. Any country that's suffering from adverse weather conditions, it's as bad for them as it is for anybody in a war. People everywhere are losing their lives for one reason or another, and it's 2022, and they should not be. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and the one that kicked off the discussion is one of those things, which is a war, which is the most eminently avoidable of all things. Except it's good business, man. It's great business.
It's great for the economies that are selling weaponry.
Yeah, and the rest.
Countries, that's selling weaponry. So and everything else that goes with it. So I think that leads nicely into my quote, actually.
I'm talking about being on point. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. War, a massacre of people who don't know each other for the profit of people who know each other but don't massacre each other.
Oh, that's nice, simple, and kind of horrifically to the point, isn't it?
It is. It is as simple as that. It's the boots on the ground that suffer. It's not the boots that are hiding in the bunkers.
Yeah. I've been doing a module of, I do it every year, of war poetry with the lads that I teach, and if you really want to understand war, just pick up a Wilfred Owen poem or a Siegfried Sassoon poem. And those guys wrote about the horror of the reality of war. And they looked at, there's a really lovely, simple little poem called Base Details by Sassoon, where he talks about the class difference and how the officers guzzle and gulp in their lovely conditions, while the unfortunate grunts are sent up the line to die. And similarly, there's just a really, really incredible poem called Dulce et Decorum Est by Wilfred Owen, where he basically exposes what he calls the lie that it is right and honourable to go and fight for your country. He basically is implying that all war is a racket. It's a very interesting thing, and of course there are shades of grey. And like, I know there's a kid I know, and he has family involved, and he's incredibly patriotic Ukrainian, and he's talking about fighting and all that, and you've got to listen to that and go, okay, well, that's coming from a different place, and people get caught up in it. So I just wish there was a little bit more sort of genuine humanity being reflected in the coverage and the attitudes, because it's incredibly hawkish from what I can see. People just wanting to bomb and destroy and kill. So hopefully that will tweak a little bit as we go on. I don't know how optimistic I am about it, but in order to get into the football, we should start with something that's causing a little bit of controversy in football land, which is the whole Mo Salah situation, which has been going on for quite a long time now. And I think, understandably, people are getting pretty sick of it. I get that. Yeah. And the context that I want to just frame it up with is the story about, will he or won't he? Jurgen was interviewed today. Salah's agent stuck his oar in, as he does. He's a silly man. And our pal Fab Romano ran with it as well. Right. So it's the perfect kind of little shitstorm. And
I was going to say that. It's a shit show, yeah.
It is a perfect shit show. Yeah. I'm going to quote from my old website, which, of course, is the Liverpool Offside website that I wrote for. It wasn't my website, but I used to write with them. And an article there by Marie Lewis. And Marie says, this morning, Jurgen commented, on the lack of movement of Salah's contract. The quote from Klopp, just so you know, Kam, I think Mo definitely expects this club to be ambitious. We were in the last years, and we are. And no, of course, we cannot do much more in the talks. That's how it is, really. He continues. But I don't think it's about that. I think, meanwhile, it's Mo's decision pretty much. I think the club did what the club can do. That's how it is. There's nothing to say about it. It's all fine. And he continues. From my point of view, it's exactly like it should be in this moment in time. And everything is said. Nothing happened further. So no signing, no rejection or whatever. So we just have to wait for that. It's completely fine. There's no rush in that situation. Now, you hear those words, and you or me or a normal, rational human can hear that Klopp appears to be saying one thing there. But when Rami Abbas decides that he's going to tweet a load of laughing emojis immediately afterwards, and then our pal Fab Romano comes out with how the contract has not been signed, and no way he will sign the contract that's on offer at the moment. What that does is it creates, like you said before, a shitstorm. And that's what Twitter currently is. I would say, and again, to give Marie credit here, she went and dug up a quote from Mo in an interview to GQ magazine previously, where he was saying basically he was waiting on the club to offer a better deal. Right. And he says, I want to stay, but it's not in my hands. It's in their hands. They know what I want. I'm not asking for crazy stuff. I mean, okay, can we join the fucking dots and stop panicking? Because the club is either going to give in to the request that Mo has, whether that's money or other signings or something, or they're not. I mean, there's literally nothing we can do in the meantime. What do you make of all of this, man?
I think it's one of those that is going to continue to rumble on and on and on. So either Mo has left the club or Mo has signed a new contract. And it's not going to end until something is announced, whether that be now, whether that be in 2 weeks, whether that be in 2 months, or whether that's in the summer. And I just think there's nothing, obviously, us as the fan base can really do about that. It is totally within the hands of the club and the player and the agent. My understanding is the agent is an absolutely awful person to deal with. From what I've been told previously, he's really hard work. He's really difficult to deal with. But the club have dealt with him before. We dealt with him when we signed the player. We dealt with him when Mo had a contract extension. So it can be done. We announced a load of new contracts in the summer last year. But nobody was talking about those new contracts being negotiated beforehand. Apart from, say, Jordan Henderson's, who, threw his toys out the pram and got the contract he wanted in the end. So I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. It's difficult because we all want the player to stay. We want the player to sign a new contract. We want him to finish his career at Liverpool. Mo's just about to turn 30. Has turned 30 now, I believe. I don't know his exact age. We're not going to play that game again, Trev.
No, let's not.
Yeah, we did quite badly on it last time, didn't we?
Did.
So he's around the 30. He's definitely around the 30 mark. He's still got 4 or 5 years left in him. He is a phenomenal athlete, supremely fit. His availability is second to none. He's played the most minutes of any outfield player for us this season, I believe. Plus, he went to the African Cup of Nations, and he still probably played the most minutes of any outfield player for us this season. Maybe Virgil has played more, for us this season. But he's just and he's a world class football player. The problem is, if he goes, who do you replace him with? But then that's always been the case. If a player leaves, you have to replace them at some point. They're all going to leave at some point. The club will know if he's staying or he's going, and they will be putting in plans and measures either way as to what's going to happen going forward. Because if Mo signs a new contract, then that changes our transfer targets in the summer. If Mo's not signing a new contract, which they'll be aware of, that again changes the transfer targets in the summer. Some people are saying Diaz is now the Mo replacement. Well, I thought Diaz was the Mane replacement. Which one is it? You can't have it one way or the other way, I mean, how about it's Diaz is not a replacement. Diaz is coming in to fight for a place. Because Mane's staying and Mo's staying. So I think, personally, it's a lot of talk, but I don't think, as a fan base, we should be getting so wound up about it. Because ultimately, that's not going to do anything for us as fans. It's not going to help us. Yes, it's big news because they're talking about it. And, the agent doing that tweet is just pathetic. But then that's him as a person. But Mo trusts that guy implicitly. He's been with him since day dot, apparently, hasn't he? So when you have that relationship with someone, you're guided by them. Where's Mo going to go though? Who's going to be? At the end of the day, if he goes with 1 year left on his contract, he's still going to go for 100 odd million. Realistically, yeah. Would you agree?
I guess so. Yeah. I guess so.
Let's just say nice round ballpark figure 100 million. Plus he gets his wages, whatever he wants. So who's going to buy him? PSG. Is that what he really wants? PSG. Is that really his ambition?
He's told us what he really wants. He's been honest and said he really wants to stay at the club. It's up to them to basically give him what he wants. Now, some people would say that's in and of itself. I think old-fashioned people might think, well, that's quite capitalistic, exploitative, whatever. I think it's bollocks. That's the game. So he's saying, look, if you give me this, then I want to stay. I want to stay. And in order for me to stay, you need to do this. So most fans, myself included, are of the opinion that other people's money doesn't matter. So give it to him. That's where I am with it.
No, nice and easy, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually don't give a shit about FSG's coffers once there are, I don't have these big existential dark nights of the soul where I'm doing the sums for the club in my head. I'm never going to play that game because there's always stuff you don't know. Yeah, but Mo does it brilliantly because for me there would always be stuff I don't know, whereas Mo gets the facts and figures and then he can put it together. And I don't know what you think, Kam, but when you listen to it, to someone like Mo doing it, I actually always find that quite reassuring because then you just go, okay, well I can see the logic, I can see why this is happening or why it's not happening, and there's always a sort of sense to it. Look, the thing with this is, like you said already, we all just want the player to stay. When you start kicking it around like you just did there's precious few alternatives, and if we were to win one of the big two this year, it would make it all the more difficult for him to see any other club where he could be as successful or as beloved or as happy, frankly. So I just hope that whatever needs to get done gets done. and that this will all have been, like you said, just a load of nonsense and nonsense talk that we shouldn't be getting ourselves worked up about. It's hard not to address it, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's relevant, but it's also important.
100%. While you was going through what Klopp said,
yeah,
I've actually got Sky News on, and Klopp was talking, and I was almost imagining you were lip syncing for him. I was trying to tally up if it was like I was trying to lip read what he was saying at the same time, and I'm not sure. I couldn't really tell if you got it on point there or not. So
I did. I basically just read it in my own voice. What I should have done was try to do a Lisa Marie step out of the plane voice and make it sound altogether more convincing. But this is what Jurgen does. This is how he operates. Yeah. So he's a bit of a closed book and stuff like that.
Well, he's at the end of the day, it's political talk, isn't it? It's political chat. Yeah. You speak, but you don't give an answer.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. He's basically up there treating them like mushrooms. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. Feeding full of shit, keep them in the dark. It's grand. As he keeps saying himself, all good. All good. So we'll see what happens as this pans out. Obviously we want him to stay in.
Can I just do a little segue here now?
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
I know you want to go somewhere, but I think again this is something that's really, really important with what's going on this week with Chelsea now. Now Chelsea obviously have been hit with sanctions this week, and there's a lot of talk of what's going to happen to Chelsea going forwards. And I was, I think it was on Money Talks, I think Mo mentioned it, that the Chelsea wage bill, and this is where FSG get a lot of credit, I think. The Chelsea wage bill is 77% of their turnover. They've now got no turnover. Literally.
Yikes.
That's it's £28 million a month, their wages. Now they're allowed to pay wages, but where's the wages coming from if they don't have the cash reserves? Barclays have now today said they've looking at the bank account. They're gonna, that's breaking news as such. So this is where I think FSG must get a lot of credit, because what they've been building at the club, it's the way it should always be at a football club. In that a club should be self-sustainable, shouldn't be owing the owner 1.5 billion pounds. Somebody's got to come in and buy that club. What happens with that debt? He's going to want that paid back now. He's not going to give it. Nobody's walking away from 1.5 billion pounds, no matter what they say. So I just want to give FSG a little bit of credit where credit is due. That they've had their faults. We've pointed out their faults. There's no such thing as a perfect owner, but I think we're pretty close to having, I think, the best owners you could have in possibly Europe right now. I can't imagine better owners than the ones we've got. I find it really difficult to think of better owners. Look at what's going on at Real Madrid, the shit show of, like €1 billion in debt. And Barcelona is similar. Bayern Munich are a superbly well-run club. But again, it's a different setup in Germany. So most of the clubs are run really well because of the fan representation on the boards. And ownership, stops one particular person or group owning the whole club. So the fans have 49% of a stake in the club, which has certainly helped German clubs be run better. But when it comes to like pure ownership of a football club, I genuinely can't think of I don't know how ethically what FSG are like, behind the scenes, are they doing anything they shouldn't be doing? I can't say I've actually heard of them doing anything that they shouldn't be doing. There's no sports washing going on. They're not involved in, they're not obviously a state run. We're not a state run club, owned by countries and, who have morally we think that's a bit iffy. I won't mention any names. PSG, Man City. I won't mention any names. So Newcastle. Sorry. So I'd like to think FSG. They've stuck to their principles. They've always stuck to their principles about how they're going to do things. They don't take money out of the club, but they do. I mean, they must take something out somewhere along the way. I'm sure they do, but they don't not like the Glazers of. They pump money back in the club. Obviously in transfer fees, but again, $500 million in debt because they're servicing loans and everything like that. Whereas we just seem to be so well run as a football club. Yes, we always want more transfers. Everybody does. Nobody's ever going to be happy with the number of transfers. But then suddenly you look at when all the players are fit and available, you're thinking we're only a right back short, backup right back, pretty much covered everywhere else, aren't we? I think that's pretty damn good. I think it's a pretty damn good place to be.
It is a healthy place to be. It is a healthy place to be. And by the way, our potential right back cover is pulling up trees on his loan, cracking shots in from 40 yards.
I know.
Saw that.
But he's not playing right back.
So who knows what's going to happen there. But look, I'm glad you brought it up because it is an interesting one. On so many levels, and just to sort of absolutely, like Mo Salah on the wing, to shimmy past the politics of it if we could, and just look at the reality of it. The way it breaks down is quite interesting, and other shows will do this and talk about it and break it down a little bit more. I'm not sure if Mo was a particular show about this. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. But when I heard the news, can I just tell you exactly what I thought? And I think I put it straight into a tweet because there was glee, proper glee amongst a whole lot of people on my timeline who clearly have not much fondness for Chelsea, and I can relate to that. And their fans, and again, I can relate to that. Let's be honest. It's not that long ago that there was even a little interaction, shall we say, where we had ample proof of the fact that there might be quite a few unpleasant people in and around supporting that club. But the point I made, the first thing that I thought was, sanctions. Roman Abramovich. They can't sell players. Blah, blah, blah. And I think they will have the desired effect of what they want to do, which is, making sure that Abramovich is as uncomfortable as possible and causing many, many headaches for him. But I can't see a world, Kam, in which there aren't some shenanigans and the club ownership is allowed to change hands.
100%.
And we rock on without, because what was happening, man, was, look, I kind of half alluded to it earlier on. I don't like it as a thing. I'll just come out and say it. I don't like it. I don't like grave dancing. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I don't like being gleeful over the demise of other people. There's a horrible trait, which is very, very common now, which is wishing the worst death on people. In fact, and I find this massively disturbing as a fella from a personal perspective. So I was a little bit unsettled by all the gleeful sort of grave dancing, like I was saying, and I thought also, they're daft, because there will be a deal done, because money always fucking wins, man. And there will be a deal done. And, look at the people who are involved here. You're talking about incredibly wealthy people. You're talking about an asset that needs to be exchanged. There will be benefit in kind for somebody who is powerful enough to make it happen, and that's all that matters, man, isn't it? Really? And I mean, am I being too cynical there, or like?
No, you're not. I mean, it's not. You're not being cynical at all, because what you've got to remember as well is the number of people employed by Chelsea Football Club is hundreds, and then the number of people who service Chelsea Football Club, just your average Joe like me and you, who probably have Chelsea as their biggest client, and they need that business, whether it be a delivery driver, whether it be a chauffeur, whether it be the groundsman, the training ground, whether it be the cleaner, people's livelihoods are on the line as well. The footballers will be fine. The multimillionaires, they'll go to another club. Yeah.
Yeah.
If Chelsea suddenly drop down to, get relegated or whatever, whatever happens, we don't know what's going to happen. The club's not going to go into it. The club may well go into administration, but they're not going to go out of business. That is a fact. So let's put any of that nonsense to one side straight away. Why weren't sanctions announced from day one? Only the government can answer that question. Yeah. If they were going to sanction him, why didn't they sanction him from day one? On Monday, we had the Foreign Secretary saying it was because no sanctions have been done because two Remainer Lords in the House of Lords were stopping us from creating the laws we wanted to create. Yesterday, they've made new laws, have they? Because they've suddenly now imposed those sanctions. So it shows you that the government and Abramovich have obviously been talking away in the background, and they're trying to come to some sort of solution. They've probably said to Abramovich, "Look, we're gonna have to freeze it now because, we've got no choice because it's looking bad for whatever reason, but we'll help you out when the time comes. We'll make sure the sale goes through." There's obviously a backhanded deal going on. There's nothing else that can happen. So the club will get sold. They'll get new owners and they will continue. How they continue going forwards remains to be seen. And that's primarily because of that 77% wages to turnover. Now, sponsorship deals are dropping, but sponsorship deals are only being suspended. They're not being cancelled, I think. So like Free, for example, said, take our advertising off your shirt. But if you notice the Free announcement, it said we're only suspending our sponsorship for the moment. So that tells you something in itself, the fact that they're only suspending it, not cancelling it. So, the club, and let's be honest, as much as we hate Chelsea for footballing reasons, but we've also hated Chelsea because of the way the fan base was, because of the money that had come into the club, because of Roman Abramovich. And I remember when Chelsea rocked up at Anfield in the first year when Roman Abramovich was, and they're all waving the 10 and £20 notes. We've got the money, in the Anfield Road end.
Yeah.
So yes, they're a despicable fan base. They've got a horrible element to them, because not all the fans are bad. I mean, one of my old bosses was a Chelsea fan, real nice guy. I mean, I've had clients when I was chauffeuring who were Chelsea fans. When I was a mortgage advisor, one of my colleagues was a Chelsea fan. Lovely people, just normal, just like you and me. But they have got an element. But then every football club has an element of fans who are pricks, who are racist, who are xenophobic, who are bigots, who are sexist. That's everywhere. That's unfortunately, that's human nature. Unfortunately, that's what we have everywhere in society. It's not just confined to Chelsea fans. It's just a fact, isn't it? Unfortunately, I mean, I've seen debates this week online, the out of towners and the Wolves, all that.
Oh God!
So, where does it end? I mean, our fan bases, they're not exactly, white knights, are they?
Let's be honest. Some of the very worst lads support Liverpool. That's a fact.
It is.
Some of the very worst. Only today, there's a fella. Now,
yeah,
again,
seen it.
I know
where you're going. Yeah, I've seen it.
34 followers. So you kind of wonder, is this some sort of sock puppet account that's just there to drum up a load of hate.
Have you seen the followers?
I didn't get that far.
No. Somebody mentioned the followers, so I went and had a look at the followers. It's all like women who are literally offering sex services or something along those lines.
Right.
So that's all the followers. This person is following 540 odd people, and it's mainly football stuff.
Yeah.
But all the followers, and that makes you think something wrong here. The account's only just started this month, literally a day or two ago.
Well, just to let folks know what we're talking about. We're talking about an account there who's going around stirring up racial hatred and being absolutely obnoxious. Now, even if that is someone making merry and playing nasty little games who's not actually a Liverpool fan, the reality of it is that, you know, there are lots and lots of nastiness and nasty people and pretty ugly stuff that does go on. So yeah, of course, we're not over here saying, you know, we're on some sort of a pedestal. You have to acknowledge that there are some awful lads. I say it regularly. There are so many people who stand under the same banner as me that I would never ever want to stand beside.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the way it is. That's human nature. But like, there does seem to be an especially large congregation of gals following that law. I hope for the decent ones amongst them that they don't feel as if everybody just is you know, barreling them all in together. But you know, that's about as far as my sympathy extends. I have to say, when you see a club like that who has gotten where it's gotten on money, that, you know, we'll all raise a collective eyebrow. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
It's hard to be very sympathetic. You know, it really is. It's hard to care too much. It will be interesting to see what happens. But I would say watch this space, because realistically, from a footballing perspective and in terms of what people were being most gleeful about, oh, now they have to sell, it'll be a fire sale, blah blah blah. I think
they can't sell.
Yeah, I think you'll find that that's all bollocks, and I think you'll find a certain amount of time will need to go by, and then Chelsea will be still Chelsea with some other rich individual running the show. So, you know, we to get it back to Liverpool, and again, a story that maybe isn't exclusively joy, because although the qualification for the Champions League quarterfinals happened, it happened in the context of a defeat. Now, I was doing Raw immediately afterwards, Kam, I couldn't shake off the fact that I was annoyed that we'd lost the Anfield run and that Virgil record, all those kind of things. Look, they're only little things, but they're, like I always say, they're indicators of how good the team is and how far ahead of other clubs we are, in the way that you were just talking about, maybe with the ownership there. Those little things that, Konate's never been beaten or Virgil's never been beaten. I love that stuff, because it means we're doing remarkable things, and I hate losing runs like that. Now, the rational way to look at it, Kam, is it was the second half that we lost 1-0 and we won the game overall 2-1. That is the rational way to look at it, and it's the way you do look at it, really. Johnny Achterberg was straight out going, you know, putting a little graphic up saying qualified, you know, sort of, you know, enough of your messing, lads, stop the crying, we're through, we're in the hat, and that is all that matters. Talk to me about the game itself, and if you were a little bit, if you found yourself with that, did it stick in your craw a little too?
No, not in the slightest.
It didn't? Okay.
No, because we're not going to win every game to the end of the season. This was a game we could afford to lose.
Yeah.
So the Virgil record is actually still intact, because it was for Premier League games.
Excellent. Thanks for that.
Because obviously we lost to Atletico Madrid, and Virgil played that game at Anfield. We lost 3-2. So don't worry about the Virgil record. That's still going.
Nice.
So
Nally wasn't playing, so he's still going.
So he still holds the record for 60 Premier League games undefeated at Anfield now. So don't worry about Big Virg. He's sound as a pound. Going to the game, we should have won the game. We controlled the game. We had the better opportunities. It didn't happen. But again, it was a game in which, if it had to happen, it's a great game for it to happen in. Because
Did you read the Klopp quote about Pete Krawietz, who's a sensational dancer, by the way, sensational dancer, as we've discovered.
got lessons from me, obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Brainchy
The worst
book
dancer
of,
in the world. Yeah.
yeah, the Brainchy book of Boogie. Krawietz, I'm gonna butcher the quote, but it's basically what Big Pete says is something along the lines of, the art of football is knowing which games to lose, right? And you know what? There's a lot of wisdom in that. I know it might sound daft, but that it fits in perfectly what you were saying there. If you were going to lose a game, if you were going to get the inevitable defeat in a run that you have to get in, that was the time to get it. Now, of course, it is all dependent on us coming back strong now against Brighton and
very much
staying on that track. Yeah. And I don't know about you, dude, but just to bring it back full circle and maybe have a look at the Brighton game. I know a certain Egyptian lad that's due a really good game. You know.
Yeah, he's not his fiery self, is he? He's
No, he's off it. He's off it. Let's just be honest. He's off it.
He's off. He is off, and I think he's probably just. I think he needs a rest as well.
Maybe. I suppose I'm still leaning into the fact that it's going to click, and when it does, someone's going to get an awful kicking, you know. So I'm hoping it's Brighton, I guess.
Yeah, but then you know, we still got a lot of football to play to the end of the season, and it's not just. I think what we are now I'd like to think is we're a very rounded team. In that, if you look at the goals that we've been getting this season, because Jota's suddenly off form as well. He doesn't look right. Mane isn't. I don't think Mane's playing particularly well, but he's chipping in with goals, which is the most important thing you can be doing on a football pitch. But I think his all-round play has been a bit. I think his touch has been quite poor at times. His involvement is good, but his first touch has just left me thinking, yes, it's a bit heavy at the moment. So, sorry, there was something just came up in the chat box.
That's Lisa Marie saying that she might be able to make that cameo appearance, the little transfer we talked about. So I'm just gonna tell her to jump in if she can. Man types on radio.
Yeah, this is great, folks. You know, I'm glad I shared this with you because this is Anfield Index breaking news.
Brainchy's
Please step off the plane.
There she is. I was trying to read out some Kloppo quotes earlier on. I it would have been so much better if we had you to do the convincing genocidal robot voice, but you know, we might get it in before the end of the show. Once more, how are you, Lisa Marie?
Well, I'm a little bit busy, but I just wanted to be able to pop in for a minute or two, as this is the highlight of my week. Talking to you two.
Oh yeah, yeah. Look at that. You see that, Branchy? That you thought you were a charmer, but no.
No, I'm not even close, am I?
You're not even on that level. That's remarkable. So, I mean, if you have 5 minutes, let's take advantage of those 5 minutes and let's hear from you. Is there anything in particular you wanted to talk about? Just so for context, I don't know. I know you were in meetings. We talked about Chelsea. We talked about Mo's contract. We talked a little bit at the start about the world in general. Is there anything specific you wanted to chat about, or are you happy enough just to join in on the Brighton talk?
I am happy enough to just join in on the Brighton talk. That's fine.
Let's do that, and I'll just tee it up. And of course, listeners, you will understand that Lisa Marie's actually working, and if she has to head off, she has to head off. Similar with Brainchy, you could be left with just me here. God love you if that happens. So
I will be back though, Trev. I will be back.
You will be back. So basically, let's just finish the show off, because we're getting near that hour mark, by having a look at the games that are to come up. And it's an interesting is there anything that isn't an interesting time to be a Reds fan?
Every day is.
Every single day, you know.
Something new every day to look forward to.
Yeah. The most interesting thing I'm looking at the moment is the league table, and thinking, let's get that win and let's get back to 3 points behind this lot and really rattle them. thing number one that I'm thinking of. And then I'm having a look at the fixtures that are coming up. And of course, to see March out, and it's a tremendously busy little month. We have Brighton on Saturday at 12:30. Now that's tomorrow at 12:30. So we're not going to talk too much about that. We'll talk it in the context of the games to come up. And then a game that's going to be far more relevant for folks who are listening to this show and getting a chance to listen to this show is Arsenal on the Wednesday. That's the 8:15 kickoff. And then the last game in March is Sunday the 20th, and that is our FA Cup. So you're looking at games every 3 or 4 days here, quick turnaround, and games that, you know, could really make a massive difference. Those two Premier League games, I hate to be cliche boy, but they're all cup finals at this stage if we want to win the league. And that Nottingham Forest game, I love it. It's got a real whiff of times past, FA Cup glory past, and, you know, general 80s buzz about it. I'm looking forward to that one. We're away at Forest on Sunday the 20th. So as you consider those games, that clump of games coming up, Lisa Marie, and with a view to just roping you in a little bit on the Salah thing and all the rest of it, like, I assume, I always do now, that Jurgen goes as strong as Jurgen can go for all of these games. And I now think that unlike the previous round of the Cup, now we're in the 5th round, I think the tinkering will get even less. I don't think you'll see the entirety of the change, whatever it was, 9 changes, 10 changes, whatever it was. I don't think you're going to see that because it's that much further in on the trophy. But what do I know? I'd rather get your opinion. And which of all the of those three are you looking forward to most? I think I know.
I am looking forward to the cup game, the Nottingham Forest game, just because that's somebody I have not experienced us playing before. So
yes.
So I'm aware of a little bit of the history and I guess everything there, and so I'm kind of just looking forward to a new and different opponent, if you will, you know, for this current team to come up against.
Well, for the record, there's a friend of mine who's really excited about the Nottingham Forest game for I would imagine quite similar reasons, because for her Nottingham Forest means Robin Hood. And she was straight away tweeting GIFs from that old brilliant cartoon version of Robin Hood that came out when we were all kids, as in we, as in the crowd on this show, quite a while ago, if we have to be honest about it. So that of course has its own individual attraction. But Kam, in that trio of games, obviously we've got Graham Potter's out tomorrow in midday. It will be a challenge. They're a decent side, and he is a very much admired manager. Yeah. But if we're being honest, the game against Arsenal is looking like it's going to be very tasty, because again, look where they're in the league. They're 4th in the league now, 2 games less played than the 3rd place team, who are Chelsea, and exactly 8 points behind that 3rd place team. So they could really start putting the pressure on Chelsea were they to start winning their games. And actually, more to the point, they are a point ahead of Manchester United, who are in 5th, and they have 3 less games played than Manchester United. So they look as if they're going to be a great bet for top 4, and a couple of wins against a couple of the big clubs will probably cement that for them. Yeah. What do you think about Arsenal now? For just for context for folks, really briefly, you know, their recent run of fixtures, or results rather, they beat Watford 3-2, they beat Wolves 2-1, they beat Brentford 2-1, they beat Wolves again 1-0. They had a 0-0 with Burnley. Obviously we put them out of the EFL Cup, and then before that it was Nottingham Forest who put them out of the FA Cup, and the game before that they were beaten 2-1 by Manchester City. So there seems to be a little bit of a revival going on there in their fortunes and in their form. Yeah.
I remember that Man City game really well. I thought the first half they were excellent. I thought they actually played they were actually 1-0 up, at half time. They played some phenomenal football. The front three, I think it was Martinelli, is it Emmett Smith-Rowe?
Yeah, Smith-Rowe.
Emile Smith-Rowe, yeah.
Yeah, and Saka. And they were just phenomenal. Absolute joy to watch. It was like watching an Arsene Wenger side. So they have been in good form, but it's always a tasty game at the Emirates. So it's going to be tough. But the Arsenal fans are suddenly making a lot of noise again, aren't they? That they're brilliant because they've got a few results together, and obviously in the next 5 years they're going to be the greatest football team in the world again. So
yeah.
It's always about next season, isn't it? We used to be like that, didn't we? Next season, watch us go next season. But now it's other clubs that are doing that, so that's nice. So let them worry about next season or the season after, because I think as tough a game as it will be, I still think we should have enough to overcome them. I think tomorrow's game is going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Brighton always give us a tough game, especially at the Amex Stadium. Potter he's an excellent coach, stroke manager. I think tactically he's really good. He stifles us. He manages to stifle us. He makes it a very, very difficult game. We never seem to run away, or we rarely do. I'm sure we have. I can't remember every single Brighton result, but or when we played them, sorry. But I don't think we've ever really just done them good and proper. So that's going to be a tough game. Really looking forward to the Forest game. Brings back memories. Brings back a certain memory of a 5-0 at Anfield. Lovely goal from Peter Beardsley in that game, if I remember right. He chipped the keeper. Just a little dink over the keeper, wasn't it? So that was a fantastic game. I remember I bought the video of that game because it was described as the game of the century.
Yeah. That's probably still just about the best team I've ever seen. But this lot now are pushing it close, I have to say.
I think this team has overtaken them personally.
Well, this team has, if you put down the fact that they won a European Cup, but I really believe that Kenny's, Barnes and Beardsley era team had a European Cup in them if they had been able to play in the European Cup.
Possibly, but then, we're never going to know. It's hypothetical, isn't it, what they could have done. I can only go by what I'm seeing, to what I've saw then and what I'm seeing now. And when I look at the number of games we're playing now, and the number of points we are accumulating season in, season out, the Kenny team didn't get close to that number of points.
But that's true too. You could afford to lose a few games and still win the league. I think I'll never forget. We were 13th in the league at Christmas when we won the league and cup double in Kenny's first season as player manager.
Madness.
So these are
the
This is how much the game has changed.
Yeah. And that's why I just think this team edges it.
I think you've got a real case. I genuinely do. We should start wrapping it up and keep this as tight to an hour as we can. Let you guys get back to where you need to go. Lisa Marie, any final thoughts for us at all? Anything you want to say? Just a last word from you. I'll go to Kam then and I'll finish out with my quotes.
Actually, I have a quote that I didn't get to use last week for a closing, so I'll use it today.
Excellent.
Just remember, you can do anything you set your mind to, but it takes action, perseverance, and facing your fears. And Trev, this is for you because that was said by Gillian Anderson.
Oh, Gillian.
He just melted.
Let me count the ways. That's wonderful. Thank you very much, both Lisa Marie and Gillian, for that. That's tremendous. And Kam Brainch, have you got anything to finish out with? I know you did your war quotes early on. Have you anything you want to plug or a reference or anything like that?
Maybe a plug. Listen to Money Talks. It's obviously free for everyone to listen to. So it's a really good pod between Mo and Dave Hendricks. Very informative. Gives a great insight as to what's going on at Chelsea. And I think it puts a lot of stuff into perspective, like I said, about how I feel our owners are looking good right now because of it. So and all things on AI, you can't really go wrong. The latest great stories, that's an excellent listen. I'm not sure who the orator is. Is that the right word? Orator?
Yeah, he's some Irish chancer. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So if you get someone decent in, I think that pod will go places.
I actually know a woman with a voice that will make people do whatever it is that she wants them to do.
I think we may have stumbled across something.
we may have come across a winner. That's great. So yeah.
And just finally, if just a shout out to one of our old muckers, get on some green grass and a ball. There's some good content on there as well.
Absolutely, a tremendous collection of writing on Carl's site. It's really good. A great way to spend a while. And there's a lovely twist because they're kind of original takes as well. They're not the standard football.
No,
stuff.
That's right. It's some real left field stuff out there. That
yeah,
really opens your eyes.
Exactly. I'm in the WhatsApp group, and you would want to see the things that are being suggested for article topics. It's remarkable.
I could believe it.
I was actually chatting to Carl during the week, and he's going to come back and do the Glory Days podcast with me probably next week about the FA Cup. I think we're going to do 89, myself and Carl. So if you've been jonesing for...
That'd be an Everton one.
That would be the Everton one.
Yeah.
So if you've been jonesing for a bit of cop back in your life, you can, which I know at least one or two people have been asking how Carl's getting on. You'll be able to hear him on that show with me in the week to come, when we'll try to fit it in between all the other crazy antics. There are endless games, folks. You'll probably have picked up on that. That means there'll be endless amounts of Raw, endless amounts of me and Jan Mulby talking, endless amounts of this podcast here, and all the other ones that I try to fit in for the channel as well. So do keep your ears open for them. If you have any interest, get yourself over to greatstoriespod.com, have a look there, see what you think of it. The only reason I say that to you honestly is because some of the most unusual clients, in terms of I'd never have picked them to be interested, are actually interested. It's people in my own personal life I'd never have thought would have an interest in the world, and it just turns out people like stories, and they like being told stories. So I would appreciate it if you do go and have a check at that. Now, I am going to wrap it up. Kam has had to go. Lisa Marie, I know, needs to jump out, and I'm just going to leave you with two quotes. I'm not talking about the quality of the personality of either of these two men, but what I'm talking about is the weightiness of the words that they spoke. First is George McGovern, a former US congressman, who said, "I'm fed up to the ears with old men dreaming up wars for young men to die in." And that ties in very much with the Sassoon and Wilfred Owen poems that I was recommending that you go and check out earlier on. And to finish with, why not finish with a bit of Hermann Göring, who was Minister of Propaganda back in the Third Reich. And he says, and this is going to resonate with people, naturally the common people don't want war, neither in Russia, nor in England, nor in America, nor for that matter in Germany. That is understood. But the people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That is easy. All you have to do is tell them they're being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same way in every country. The only point of that is manipulation, and the people who are behind these things, some of the very worst people in human history. Let's start to wrap it up then completely by me telling you we'll be with you next week. We'll have a couple of games to talk about, a couple of games to look forward to. Thank you to Kam. Thank you to Lisa Marie. I've been Trev Downey in my field here in rural Ireland. And you know what? The times that are in it, do go out there and be kind to your fellow Reds, and definitely do stay safe out there.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.